In a city steeped in history, this giant has many tales to tell. One such story of Canadians and war was nearly lost for good.
Somebody wanted so badly for them to have the opportunity to leave a legacy.
Jane Robinson has spent years piecing together the tale of this embroidery on display at St. Pauls Cathedral. It may look like the work of professionals, but most men who stitched those patterns were soldiers with no embroidery experience at all.
50% of the embroiderers were from the Commonwealth, but my latest research is suggesting that the first embroiderers to begin the work were the Canadians.
During the First World War, British hospitals received wounded Allied soldiers. Many were taught embroidery to improve dexterity and get their focus off the horrors of the battlefield. Among those servicemen was Lance Corporal James Earnest Muth from Port Ryers, Ontario. Gravely injured in battle, he still lived to tell his son about the war and the embroidery.
Both hands were terribly wounded. It stood him in good stead. He became awfully good with his hands and artwork. Oh, here's a good picture, though.
Malcolm Muth retired as a Presbyterian minister. His father told him the needlework instructor got him to stitch one of those yellow tulips, surrounded by the work of other British Empire soldiers.
I was the only one for that big hospital with thousands in it that could shade the leaves the way she wanted.
Their tapestry became the altar frontal used after the war at St. Paul's Cathedral. A fitting addition to a place so firmly rooted in history, some call it the parish church of the Commonwealth.
But I don't think we think enough about the people who came back with those terrible scars and wounds, both mental and physical. And yet here we have something which they were able to focus on, to create, to lift them out of the awfulness of what they'd experienced.
In the Second World War, bombs rained down on London. St. Paul's was badly damaged. With the altar itself destroyed, many assumed its cloth was gone too.
There's his hand. There's his face.
Muth's family cherished his pictures and memories, but never thought they'd get to see the embroidery that he helped make.
And then we discovered that at the beginning of the war, they'd put it away for safekeeping, so it survived. And then they brought it out, you see. But he didn't know that. He died before we knew that.
James Muth's grandchildren, Anna and James, himself a lieutenant colonel, traveled to London to see the piece unveiled again, this time on display for the centennial of the First World War.
To stand before it and see it is a really emotional thing. It is extraordinary to me that a man like him could lead a seemingly ordinary life after what he had been through.
There's no plan for what will happen to the altar frontal after this year's centennial of the armistice. It may be put back into safe storage now that its story lives on. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, London.